Hello and welcome to Connecting with the Stars. I'm here with special guest and good friend, Crystal Fambrini. How are you today?
I'm great. I just bought some Stardust yesterday.
Oh, good, perfect. We need that. I love that. So anyway, what I'd like to do is I'll read your bio because it's so long and incredible. People need to hear all this. And then we'll just dive into a casual conversation about life and how you got where you are and what the vibe in LA is like today and just what we see with this conscious awakening, what's happening with all of us. It's happening pretty quickly and it's affecting all of us to wake up pretty quickly, which is really cool. And I know you've touched on that a lot in your life. So anyway, here you go. Crystal Fambrini is an award-winning journalist, producer, and TV host with millions of online digital views, hundreds of live news appearances, and a plethora of work on national and international outlets. Media work seen on NBC, ABC, Fox, MTV, E!, HuffPost, Riot, Current TV, Sundance Channel, Spike TV, USA, CBC Canada, Canada 5 Italy, and more. Her work contributed to earning multiple awards, including an Oscar nomination, World Fast Remmy, Society of Professional Journalists Award, and 4 Emmys and more than 10 Telly Awards. Crystal worked at Al Gore's Emmy Award-winning Current TV as a host, reporter, and producer, covering a wide range of stories, including profiles on inspiring people, investigative pieces on the environment, and exploring new technological advances. eNetwork's co-founder pegged Crystal to represent his new digital broadcast endeavor, The Look. She sharpened her production skills working with Dick Clark Productions and 19 Entertainment on a wide range of projects, from the Golden Globes to So You Think You Can Dance. At Fox's My TV network, she produced 70 one-hour episodes on the primetime soap opera Desire. As a Fox News Channel national reporter, she excelled at reporting and producing podcasts using just a small digital recorder. Her Crystal Cam caught the attention of Harpo Productions, who licensed her work to air on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Her entertainment reporter coverage highlights include the Cannes Film Festival, Sundance Festival, and Oscars. Crystal's interviewed hundreds of celebrities, including Robert Redford, Jim Carrey, Samuel L. Jackson, Ben Affleck, Larry King, 50 Cent, Justin Timberlake, Ashton Kutcher, Demi Moore, Diane Keaton, Jennifer Aniston, Emily Blunt, Susan Sarandon, Keira Knightley, and Reese Witherspoon. Philanthropic work includes raising funds for public schools, art education, and women empowerment, rebuilding Haiti, supporting children's hospitals and medical cancer research, sustainable farming in Uganda, building 8 schools in developing countries, bringing water wells to third world countries, fighting American youth homelessness after school programs for at-risk youth. Crystal began her career assisting the late anchorman Peter Jennings during her time at ABC News World Tonight. ABC News allowed her to travel all over the country, taking part in stories, from helping Jennings on the floor of the Democratic National Convention in Los Angeles, to interviewing senators in their offices in Washington, D.C., to visiting Air Force camps up and down the East Coast for It's Your Money investigative unit. She will always remember Jennings and value advice to make your own way in the industry. She exceeded in film school, earning the highest grades, numerous accolades, and bestowed the most outstanding graduating student award. I'm not surprised with that. There's much more here we can touch on in a little while, but mostly I just would say it's so good to see you. I'm trying to remember where we met in LA. Was that 10 years ago?
It was at the Clinton Foundation event where they had Jessica Alba. Yeah, 10 years ago. I would say it's like maybe probably 9 years ago, but we can just round it to 10. Yeah.
I was trying to remember that. And we've crossed paths a bit in Sedona and LA and here. And I just I've watched you. I've never read your bio in all the years that I've known you because I've been able to spend time with you in person. But why don't you just start telling about how you got inspired to do this work, or what you know, whatever we'd like to do. We have got about 30 minutes to just share whatever you'd like to talk about, what you see is going on in LA right now, how your life is expanded with all these incredible things you've done, and what you see today. Or start wherever you like. It's all interesting.
Well, I want to start with energy because I think you and I are aligned with that. And that's how we met. I heard your voice talking, you're telling a story, and I thought you were funny and quirky and interesting. So I turned around and I remember we just started like, having some chit chat, and that turned into, I think, exchanging numbers, and then we stayed in contact. But this concept of energy and being in flow and like attracts like, I'm really big on. I think that's what allows me, that's how I live my life.
We both do. Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
good vibes, good vibe people, good vibrations. And we are living in it right now, trying to lift everybody up into it. But
right. But you got to be conscious of it, right? You got to actively stay in that mindset. And when you feel your mind shifting out of it, you have to have tools in your EI, emotional intelligence toolbox, to tap into, to get yourself, feeling good about yourself, feeling good about your mission and what you're here to do on this world. I was thankful. I always tell people, I always knew what I wanted to do since I was 6 years old. There was never a question of what I wanted to do. And that's why it was easy for me to excel in school, because I was very clear. And a lot of times people grow up and they're not sure. And especially now, my gosh, there's so many options. There's just a zillion options out there. And sometimes when you have so many options, it becomes confusing and you can get a little depressed because you don't know which way is best. And then there's FOMO, fear of missing out. But I never had that. I was always like, I wanted to shine a light on those that were in the dark. I wanted to give a voice to the voiceless. I wanted to be like a talk show host and share other people's stories. And it wasn't about me, like, oh, look at me. That's different. That's like, I consider that like if you want to be an actress, right? I wanted to be there for other people and stand with them together. I never saw myself as the star. I saw myself as the galaxy. We're like, let's, be in this together. So that's just how my mom literally said, that's like how I just was that way. I just came here like that.
And I think, I did too. At age 5, I knew my dad was, a rocket scientist. I grew up with the stars. I wanted to do housing. And you and I have both been, I know, not only, yes, we connected with each other's energy back then down there because we needed to be here. You've been doing it. And here we are on Conscious Awakening Network, connecting with the stars. And it's not with the stars, it's with these stars. My name is obviously Mary Edwards, and it's about me, but it's not about me. It's about us and we, and how we can shed that light. And you and I both done homelessness, vets, it's always, and hospitals and cancer. And, our people say, what do you do for philanthropy? I said, well, like you, I know it's all woven into one. It's helping shine a light on people and doing whatever we can to help women, kids, dogs, like your beautiful Sunny. You have your dog who's a surfer. I've seen Sunny on a surfboard. But it's all about the flow and getting connected with connecting people in the most positive of way, which is what we're seeing right now in this incredible age of Aquarius. We're finally in together, trying to lift spirits, wake up each other together so we can really create a happier, healthier life and planet and people. So
and when it feels good, when you feel good about doing something, you're on the right course. When not like that temporary satisfaction, but when you just feel your energy rise, like when you're talking to someone and you just feel so much more excited about life and pursuing your day after you talk to that person. Like people have that concept of the battery, like people either charge you up or take away. And so you can do that with people, with your work, with what you eat, like everything. And that's all about conscious living. It's so important to stay conscious. And it's not a buzzword. It's a way of being. It's how to be, to have your best life, really.
And it's do good. I mean, it's being good, doing good. And you and I both grew up in Northern California, right? And you're in LA now, I'm in San Francisco. We didn't go far, but because of the imagination and creativity and the forward thinking, we were girls here who stayed. and wanted to go blast out into the vast universe to break down barriers, really, and boundaries of what not only women have done, but everyone has done in their mind, body, and spirit. And even when we were working with a mutual friend years ago on spirituality, that's been woven. I mean, my life and your life too has really been a thread of healing, voice, connection, and design. And you do it in your life and I do it in my life, but it's always that constant thread of uplifting, connecting, and just making people feel better. And, that's a lot of what the joy and we're coming back to in this sort of renaissance we're in right now, even though there's still division that has to be dealt with. But it's all about lifting, uplifting, space lifting, making, helping others and ourselves together have more self-love, let go of the fears. So, everyone is at a point now where we're just letting go of fear. We're going towards love and trying to just connect more dots with those positive people to rise up.
Remember, and giving yourself permission to feel sad, to have an off day, to just sit there for a couple weeks if you feel that's what you need to do to figure out your next path. There's no timeline. There's no have to. Like, I took this emotional, I've taken a lot of trainings and emotional workshop classes because I love to study, I love to learn. And one of the things they would say is, and a lot of things you hear in emotional intelligence or spirituality, you'll hear it over and over again in different ways. You'll hear it in religion, you'll hear it in other people's books, kind of like universal truths, but the power of words. And rather than saying I have to, you replace that with I get to. Just so much more powerful. Like, I have to sounds like a chore, like, oh, I have to do this, or, I have to do it. But I get to is like a privilege. It's an honor. It's an opportunity. It sounds more exciting, more positive. And just even doing something like that helps. It's more conscious. You're more conscious with your words. It helps you get alignment with the right mindset. And then you can go out and tackle your job or your, whatever you want to do.
Right. And then you and I both spend a lot of time in nature. And that's one thing. Nature is free for, if we're going to come into I am love, I am forgiven, I accept, all this, I am loving kindness. If we remind ourselves, take the breaks we need to, the personal hygiene of, like you said, it's diet, it's food, it's mind, body, spirit all day long. We have to take little breaks to regroup and reset, sort of recharge our batteries, because we all, we're human. We get down, we get triggered by people we work with or family or whoever it is. But why we connected was it was a mutual energy club of EE, like, let's just recharge our, each other when we see each other and talking now to just try to make the world a better place. And how do we do that? We just do it every day. Our thoughts are everything. So
thoughts are things.
Thoughts are things. I was just trying to spit that out. Thoughts are things, and we are love. And we do forgive, and all those things, those positive intentions all day long. I have them. I'm sure you have them still up, but we all have them. And it's a great reminder. And we want love and we want peace. And, if just by the mere fact that we're talking about it here and you do it in your work and I'm doing it like every day now, it really helps spread the word for people to talk about their fears, talk about the fears that they've been through. Everyone's been through struggles. There's so much, every kind of abuse. Everyone's been rich and mostly often rich or poor. We've all been through struggles, but the one thing we can do is be disciplined, try to be disciplined enough to be the I am and to think the good thoughts and say kind things to each other every day more and more, and live it, and really talk to our higher selves to really incorporate that into our daily lives and get the exercise, good food. All of it matters, every decision every day in our meals and our friends. It's like picking and choosing flowers. I've deleted the few other negative people, even this year. It was like, oh my gosh, we always just need to keep updating. Not that I'm anything. I just know when I feel like I'm being in a situation where the energy isn't right, like you mentioned, I just, we have to just move away, leave, just exit nicely and don't go back. Because whether it's a piece of furniture or an old friend or a boyfriend or whatever it is, we have to keep refreshing and refreshing and refreshing ourselves. I mean, I turned 72 in March, and I feel better than I've ever felt. I never want to stop learning. I never want to stop blasting out the scope of what my reality is. I mean, now I've been like the edges of the universe. I've been off planet. I've been working on habitat since I was 5 and 10 years old. I was inside of Pluto last week. I mean, how insane is that? And I know it's the truth. We're all stepping into our truths today too. We look at our fears. We try to eliminate those as much as we can through whatever help we need to get. Discussing it like we are here. We've all been through a lot of stuff. We're strong. We are strong, and we are here to help shift. And unless we go into those dark parts of ourselves and try to heal them, look at them, integrate it, accept it, move on, then we won't grow and we won't thrive and we can't be our best selves.
Well, in order to love out, you've got to start with yourself, right? So you need to love yourself first. So there's a lot of self-love. It's like the first layer. And then as you love yourself, you get to give out. But the quickest way for me to change my feeling or change my mindset is to do a good deed for someone else. And it could be something really small, whether you're in line at Starbucks and you turn around and you offer to pay for that person's coffee, like something like that. It's just, that person gets so excited and they're unexpected. Or if you're, walking into a store and you just open the door for a couple people and let them walk in, to, raising a lot of money to help, research against cancer or to build schools. I mean, there's a wide variety of ways to give. And I believe that everyone's a philanthropist, whether you give $1 or $1 million, it's your intention behind that. And you touched on something about discipline. It's important to stay disciplined in your daily routine, right? Because 95% of what we are happens in our daily routine. It's those small things that we do every single day that add up to a big thing. Like take smoking, for example. If you smoke every day, 1 cigarette or 2 cigarettes, you might not think that's a big deal. Compound that 3 decades, it's going to take off several years of your life, which is a huge deal. But I was listening to someone the other day. I have to go down the rabbit hole on motivational and inspiring speakers. And I listened to a couple different people's take on what's the difference between discipline and motivation. And I have a lot of friends that are Navy SEALs, and they're like, motivation is ridiculous. It's discipline, because motivation is like, hip hop hooray, like you did good. Like I'm motivated to go work out this week. But what happens when you lose your motivation? Then you don't do it. So they say motivation is like just a short thing, but discipline, no matter what you feel, if you feel good or feel bad, if you don't want to do it or you do want to do it, it doesn't matter. You're disciplined, you still do it. And that's why Navy SEALs have that mindset, because they go through hell and back. And especially during their training, who knows what they do. They have to like sit in cold water for hours. They have to do all these crazy stories my friends tell me about. And that takes discipline. So I just think that's something that's really important to touch upon when you think about how can I, live my true life? How can I be my best self? What do I need to start to do? Well, I need to start to love myself, and even loving myself takes discipline, because there's a lot of story attached to it. Like, oh, I'm not worthy, or worthiness stories, or I'm not ready, or this. Just take that all away and just be disciplined and do certain actions, and they'll add up.
Exactly. Well, my former husband was a Navy SEAL, and my dad in the Navy, he was, a rocket scientist. And we literally grew up, we did not have Cokes. We did not have Coca-Colas. We did not have sugar. We had 3 meals a day. We had vegetables. We grew a lot of them back then. I mean, we had wine once a week. I mean, whatever it is, we can stop today. I mean, I used to smoke socially in the olden days. And one day I said, I'm about running up in Aspen at the top of the mountain. And I thought, I had a cigarette last week and I can still feel it. Just stop. I mean, we can just stop. We have the ability, unless we're so addicted, if it's something that's really a disease-based problem. But, and like you've done a lot of work with cancer. I worked on Marin Cancer Center, and, we know we can read it every day, all day long. You can have French fries once a year, or you can have a bite of cake. My mother would have her bite of, like a birthday cake. She'd have a bite of the frosting. She'd say, well, I can't have a whole piece, but I like the frosting. And I said, well, then I'll take your inside. But, you know, I grew up with that, and I know you have, and we have to be more disciplined every day with half of our country, you know, obese and sick, and people, there's so much death and so much heart disease, and so much of it has to do with stress, lack of, you know, the balance in our lives. It's always about finding that balance, and you and I know that very well. But it is self-love, and then it's also just helping people however we can. I wrote 3 letters last week to people that I just hadn't talked to for a long time. And I just said, you know, I really, and it was like a letter in an envelope. It was a short one.
Yeah.
But it was like, you know, whatever we can do, like you said, we can smile at people walking down the street, that we do, because we've been together. It's the simple pleasures in life that that make me want to leap out of bed in the morning. And I know that does to you too. But when you feel good and you're fit as we can be, in mind, body, spirit, physically, and also in our intentions every day, and we can keep getting better. I mean, so I'm a senior, who cares? I just, you know, I'm just beginning. You know, I think there's every day is an opportunity to change. And I think these kind of conversations are really helpful.
And then when you start to take on this mindset and take on this discipline, things in the beginning, I think, shift around you really quickly, because you might decide to share with your friends or your inner circle or your colleagues, and they might be negative towards you. So you're conscious of that. And then you kind of take a step back. So at first, you know, when you change, you might feel a little loneliness because the people around you aren't used to it. And I think really in reality, people don't like change. You know, they're uncomfortable with it.
That is like one of the best things I've heard anybody say in a long time. People really do not like change. I mean, I've lost a few friends all through COVID when I started getting more into my ET life. And they just said, Mary, you know, one of my 2 best friends said, I don't really like space, and I don't really want to hear about ET.
Oh, really?
And it's like, and I love.
That's funny. That's pretty like, I
No,
don't
but
like
I mean, it was like, that's what I've always loved that. I mean, I've known about this my whole life. And now that I'm coming out of the ET closet the last few years, and people know me for 40 or 50 years doing interiors, those people trust me. And they're going, okay, well, I saw you in this life and now you're transitioning. It's really the same thing, isn't it? And I said, it's exactly the same thing.
So tell me a little bit about that. Catch me up. I want to learn some ET knowledge.
Oh,
Give me a 5-minute rundown.
Okay, well, you know, the ETs, we don't call them aliens. I was contacted, not abducted, at age 5 and 6 and 10 to go on a spacecraft, and my dad was with me at age 5. And
But what do you mean? How do you know you were? How do you know you weren't sleeping?
Because I can remember it like it was I could smell it, I could feel it. It was like I'm sitting here talking to you. But I mean, okay. It's something that never goes out of your mind.
Okay.
So, and I'm now that my dad passed about 8 years ago. My dad, I've been talking to him a lot this last few months, and he has validated that we went together. I've talked about it. He was not allowed to talk to me for 70 years, so I just tracked him down through a rocket scientist turned mystic. About 6 months ago, somebody that could actually connect with him, that I trusted, that Dad would trust, blah blah blah. Because I don't know how to do that. I've got a lot of the clears going on, but I don't have that skill yet. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But anyway, so he has validated. Yes, I said, Dad, since you were part of the Navy, the military, the US government, part of NASA, with your great grandfather's company from 1893, and then they shut the company down in 1994. They sold it to another big company. They were doing work with the government forever. And because he was a Navy pilot, he was studying under Einstein. He was at Princeton during World War II. He went off to the Navy, became a lieutenant pilot, came back. And all throughout my life, I asked my mom and my dad about this going up on a spacecraft, sitting there with a couple of 3 grays, Palladian and Arcturian. I had this out just in case we talked about that. That's me at age 5. That's one of the grays I saw. And that's one of the Arcturians that I saw. And this is in Barbara Lamb's in my book last year that we did to help.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a really
so anyway,
basic 101 question though. So you showed that picture, and that is a drawing of what people stereotypically think of aliens. So are you saying that that's what they looked like?
Well, that's what they look like to me. They're all, I mean, that's a gray. There are many different sizes and shapes of gray. I happen to see a 4-foot tall one. They come in blue, they come in gray. I saw a gray one. And then
were they clear? Were they transparent? Was it
No,
more
they
like
were, it
light
was,
energy?
no, it was really like you were sitting, like you and I looking at each other. They were in the room. My dad was in the room. Dad was up there with me, but it was like, I didn't really see me. I could see my feet. And
Okay.
then the Arcturian, it was all like they were alive. It was different when I saw Ghost, when our maid passed and I saw her and talked to her for about 10 minutes, like 30
Mhm.
years ago.
Yeah, what
She
was
was
that like?
more kind of blurry. She was more blurry. She had just passed the day before and she was like my second mom growing up. So at the day she passed, I went up to her room and she was sitting in her chair and I was like 18 or, I mean, it was a long time ago. I said, "What are you doing here?" And she said, "I'm just here to see if you're okay." And I said, "But you're all fuzzy." And she said, "Well, you know, my funeral was yesterday or whatever it was." And I said, she said, "I just came to tell you that you're good, you're okay. All those, you know, the things that you've experienced are all okay." Because I had already talked to her. Nobody validated these things. But anyway, she was fuzzy. And then when my grandmother passed, I was with her like 20 years ago, and I saw her right when she passed. She had a window like this in her big condo in Chicago. And right after she took her last breath, I was there alone with her. My mom and her maid were in the other room, and I saw a 15 or 20-foot angel. And that was
Beautiful.
more solid, but I could see twinkling, and then it was on the, it was like unbelievable. So she's validated that. Sophie validated that. My dad validated that, yes, he couldn't talk to me for 70 years about that experience we had, or he could have been like nixed because the government and NASA, nobody, you know, you're supposed to keep your trap shut about ET encounters. So anyway.
Why is that?
Because it's not, they want to, oh, who knows? It's for many reasons. It's control and command, it's competition, it's a lot of things. It's power and greed. And, you know, I don't want to go there. I never used to believe in conspiracy theories, but I did grow up with secret space for my whole life. So I've always been very discerning anyway. I'm like an FBI agent. As a private person, I've always picked and choose very carefully. And I always get great people like you who are pure and honest and have integrity. I've always had the greatest girlfriends and bosses at NASA and all the places I've worked over the years. I've always picked good people, luckily, who are hardworking and like we are here to make on a mission with a passion to help others and however we do. So so anyway, I've had other off-planet experiences, and it depends upon how I go off, but those were really real to me. I mean, they were literally, and that's how I could draw them. I mean, that I don't really talk about this very much, but I wanted to validate it for me. And in these 5 or 15 conversations I've had with my father, who passed, as I said, with this guy, I said, "Dad, why couldn't you tell me?" I said, "I didn't know till now that I thought I was crazy my whole life. You never," and he said, "Well, all of us in the military or the government or NASA were not allowed to talk about it. They told us to keep our trap shut for a lot of different reasons that you know some, and we all know some, but very little, but they are going to be, I think the next 3 or 4 years." I was talking to some of them the last few days, and a lot of the time, my guides that come and help me and have always guided me, have always protected me and groomed me and taught me step by step by step to be doing some of the work that I'm doing, the teaching that I do with kids here on Earth and off planet, and also on the interiors of the solar system and different off planet things that only a handful of people do. That's why it's really hard sort of coming out and even talking about this, because I've already gotten judged a bit, but I know that's true to me. I am walking in my path of truth, and other people have stories. I've interviewed 30, 40 people now. I trust everybody's story. And, you know, some people don't tell the truth, but most people do.
So why you?
Why me? Because of my 94 generations of space that goes all the way back. I've tracked a lot of my lifetimes for a long time. I'm part of it's ancestry. A lot of it's DNA. It's a lot of the way I said to Dad the first time I talked to him about 20 calls ago, a few months ago, I said, "Why me?" He said, "You got the wiring that I got about space, hard work, expand horizons, ETs." His grandfather, I said, "Did your dad have that? Do you have hybrid kids?" He said, "Yeah, I have 12 hybrid children." I said, "What was your dad like?" He said, "He was also a Pleiadian and Arcturian." I said, "What about grandfather?" These were all these stand-up Princetonian guys. I said, "Oh my God." And Mom she wasn't allowed to say anything, and she didn't care about space that much. And she made an agreement with Dad. She knew that life would be very separate. I mean, he had a big, huge aeronautical aerospace company in 10 different locations near military bases that I've just been learning about a lot this year. So anyway, I was trying, I knew that I had been lied to. I knew after asking my sisters, they didn't get the wiring, but it was psychism, hard work, focus, love of space, love of nature, love of basically the unknown, love of the stars. My mom's dad was an architect, so I grew up with earth, space, architecture, and my dad and grandfather were electrical engineers, and they were rocket scientists, and I was the boy of the family. I always just wanted to be the son. So my sisters didn't happen to get that wiring. They got other wiring, but they didn't get what I got. So dad has validated it, other beings have validated it, I validated it, I get it. I haven't been crazy for 70 years. It did happen, and I always knew that it did, but I just never came out and talked about it to anybody because it was too scary and too weird.
Yeah, because you worry about what will happen if people will judge you. Yeah, all the fear.
And also my kids are now in their 30s, and I've talked to them about this. They know because I'm doing these shows now. I just said, if I die tomorrow from a heart attack, or if I'm off planet somewhere and I'm gone, just know, I know Lizzie's at Salesforce and Alex is in forestry here at the Presidio Trust. I said, you're grown up. Everything's taken care of. So if I'm gone, I'm gone. And we never leave anyway. And I welcome the next phase whenever it's ready for me.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place to be.
So how about you? I know we've got just a few more minutes. What would you like to add here? And your spiritual growth, or what you see that's going on in Hollywood and Los Angeles with all your people? Are people starting to feel the change and the speed and the energy that's really happening now?
Well, I try to keep myself to my circles of people that make me happy. And I do go to a lot of events and entertainment things, but I'm very selective with it. I think that, people, I hope at least that people have learned something from COVID. Whether you believe in it or not, it's not about that. It's just the fear that was generated. And as a human that always wanted to be a newscaster or be a talk show host, it was hard for me to see the last couple of years how media has changed. Like media used to be like the news was just like, and there's still some amazing journalists out there and great programs, but during COVID, it was hard to watch the news. And I'm not saying that it's even their fault. It's just like we as a society have created this fear-based mentality, and we just eat it up. We as consumers eat it up and watch it. So if you want action, you got to change yourself first before you change others. So I feel since COVID that there's a sense of a little bit of relief. I mean, I don't consider ourselves still in the pandemic anymore. However, I know we still technically are, but there was a news report, I think, that came out yesterday that said the president is going to end the pandemic officially in May or something. What does that mean? It's an announcement, but things, and that's great, I guess. But also I think, you get to live in the now, and you get to be a little bit more fearless. And I feel like that's what people are doing. I think it really pushed people to rise up and follow their dreams, or to move out of town and to someplace, not because they couldn't necessarily make it. It was just because they wanted something else. They were looking for something else. A lot of people have moved to Texas or Tennessee or Miami, and they're not scared to leave the epicenter of entertainment. They feel like they can create in other places. I mean, look at us now. Like, we're Zooming on doing a podcast and doing a video show. Like during COVID, I remember the first 2 weeks, my friend called me, who was an NBC reporter, and she was like, you should do all these, you're great on TV. You should do all these Zooms. Like, you could be on everywhere. I was like, I'm not going to do Zooms. Who's going to do that? That's ridiculous. And that's like those things you get to be like, wow, I'm also rigid. I'm also, we're all works in progress, right? Like, you look back at those things and think like, oh, I try to live a fearless life. And I try to be flexible, but then when those things happen, like, take a look at how I responded, right? I don't have any regrets with that because I didn't want to do that at that time, but it's just amazing to me how Zoom and remote work just took over.
But it zoomed us
exciting.
along. It zoomed us along. I mean, when people said, "Do you want to do a Zoom call with my interior?" I said, "No." I go inside spaces. I touch things. I feel things, just like you. I mean, different, but the same. And then here we are on Zoom. I hated it. It was like, no, that's too impersonal, and all those heads, and and everybody was so alone and freaked out. But COVID was the best thing. I mean, yes, a lot of people lost things, but people were forced to be inside to make choices. It was like the Me Too movement, then Black Lives Matter, then it was like Our Lives Matter. Everybody changed. They were forced to change. And it was great because here we end up with a lot of freedom, but still, you're right. That was what I was sort of getting at with that question, was how do you,
yeah. And I think that, people don't look at, when we talk about consciousness and to live a fearless life, people across the board, across the world, don't think of that as, blah, blah, blah. They're like, yeah, that's right. Because we lived through the pandemic for 2-3 years and we felt so much fear and it was ridiculous. And all of us at one moment during the pandemic got to make a mental decision to shift our mindset from fear, because you just got to give up at some point, right? Like I remember my mom just in a complete tizzy for months and she's like, I just can't be scared anymore. I just, and so if you take that with life, like every day, just live your best life. That's what I've been seeing a lot, but I feel like there's a lot of happiness. Like people are so thankful, like to go to events. Like I still see posts, like even just last week, like so thankful for events, which
and a gratitude for events, which people were, I know.
5 years ago, no one would be posting that, people would be like, why is she posting that? But now everyone's like, yeah, like it's going to be with us for the rest of our lives. So
it is.
And that's powerful. Yeah. And the stories that are told from that.
Yeah. And the story changes, how we do it changes, but the intent, the stories you tell, the weird stories we share here, it still has meaning, right? It still has a different meaning, but
and I did a series on homelessness and the homelessness crisis, and that was just exploded, especially in California during COVID.
Oh,
you see the tents everywhere, and
right down the street. I mean, I have them here too, San Francisco.
It became a common day. It became a conversation, became in our vernacular. Like everyone was talking about it. You can't hide from it anymore, because I think prior to COVID, people were hiding from the homelessness crisis. And then when COVID happened and all the tents were on the streets, just because, what were they going to do? They couldn't be in the shelters, and, it was really put in people's faces. And now it'll be really interesting to see the next decade if we do anything about it. Is it going to grow, or are we going to step in? And that's a whole nother subject.
That's going to be, it's going to be both, because it's going to grow, and we're going to have to come up with some other housing solutions. I worked on that, for 25 years with Susan Baker and out of the White House and different places. About 5 years ago during COVID, when I quit working on it, even though it's very prevalent here. But
because there's no right answer,
there's no right answer. And plus it is $140,000 a year for a homeless person to go through the rehab that they need. I mean, I worked at Mercy Housing here with Tim, who you met when we first met. He's been on the board of Mercy Housing, and I've been helping them with art and design and looking, can't you just buy all the old Fairmont and then turn that into housing? I mean, we've been talking about that stuff for 10 years. But
homelessness comes down to mental health.
Mental health. It's all, and now at least mental health is everywhere, down to Lisa Marie. I mean, just like abuse. I mean, everybody has trauma now, and there's a lot of addictions, and we need a lot of help. And it's, watching the news last night for 5 minutes, it's all about I can take. And watching all the dollar bill signs go through that just said, well, we're basically broke. But the new individuals, like what's going on in space, some billionaires will come in. There'll be a lot of co-teaming of individuals that want to create, that we came up with all these ideas all these years. It's gonna all be okay if we all rise up together and help each other. And that's the bottom line. And we know that. So anyway, I think this is a great note to end on, the positivity of hopefully the future of people banding together more, and they will. And anyway, I'd love to interview you again sometime, and we can take it another level. But
and then I just want to say one thing too. when you have achievements, when you have a bio that's like, oh, that's impressive, right? Well, what does that come down to? It comes down to a mindset. And that mindset comes from self-love. And one of the ways to cultivate self-love is to do affirmations and to just do something as simple as pick 3 words. Like what am I? I am loving. 3 things you want to work on. I am loving.
I'm grateful.
I am grateful. I am in abundance. And
I'm
you
happy.
just say, yeah, and you just say those to yourself. Like you could say them over and over to yourself for like 2 minutes, you know, and just feel your energy rise. And each time you say it with, you know, you go from like, I am love, you know, you can take it from here to here and you feel better, you know, and that's a way to do a meditation as well. And that's a way to cultivate more self-love in yourself. So that's just a little end tip.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, I love you, Crystal, and I'm grateful that you're here today and you brought a lot more joy to me and everyone listening to this today.
I'm so happy we got to connect. Yeah, I had the best time with you in Sedona. We'll have to do a reunion. We'll get to do a reunion in Sedona soon.
We will do a reunion soon. Or
Yeah.
I've got in LA a couple of times next couple of months, and that's probably easier. So anyway, I love you. Thank you so much for being here and shedding your light, your stardust today.
Congratulations.